next door to the Jolly Sailor, where that horse block was. I remember falling off that. I was only little. The farm was across the road where the garage is, and my father was across the road with his brothers. And of course I fell off and was screaming, and he come, and I remember him carrying me into this cottage. And then, well, of course we lived there for years until I was in my teens. And then when we started school, we had to go to Marple Bridge. Oh no, I went to the Albert School when I was 5 up here. And that because I was too little to go all the way to Marple Bridge. Because of course there was no transport or anything then. And we used to go to Marple Bridge to the Catholic school. And the auction was on, you know, behind, used to be an auction. So every Monday, all the cows and everything, oh, we used to be terrified. They was galloping up and down Brammin's Brow, you know, and it was cobbles. They used to slither. We were terrified on Mondays. We had to go to school. And then, of course, you had to go around that corner. There was always accidents at the bottom. I remember a horse and cart going down into this. It was where the cottages are. They're back now, aren't they? They used to be on the front of the road. And when it was dinner, dinner time, we all come out to school and were having a look, and this poor horse was dead in this, and this lorry on top of it, you know. Oh dear, it was awful. You know, you don't forget things like that. And then, of course, the horseshoe pub was on the corner. I remember sitting on the windowsill there. We were only kids, and we must have roamed about at dinner time, you know, from being up Mill Brow. And then we had church processions. That was very nice. So we used to dress in wreaths and veils. And I can remember when we lived at the cottage, my sister, she was 4 years older than me. And we were going to this procession, and my mother's sister, she was always here, my auntie from Stockport. And we had long white dresses and wreaths and veils on, and we went in a horse, what do you call it, like they had outside the station. Horse and trap thing, I always remember. And we sat in this with these wreaths and veils on and went down Marple Bridge to this procession.
Was the bus that you followed?
Oh, the buses, well, that used to come, and my dad used to drive it to Hayfield. So when he got to the Jolly, we used to have to wait for him with a jug and a jug of tea and 2 cups. And we'd give it him then. And he'd go to Hayfield on this bus, and then we had to wait at Mrs. Argall's shop across the road, where the smithy was, for him coming back to get this empty jug and cups. No, he was one of the oldest drivers. He finished up in the garage, you know, cleaning buses, I think. But there was Billy Walker's smithy, down at the bottom here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
At the where they put the steps now, there was a little shop at the corner, Mr. Butcher, the saddler. Then there was Mrs. Argall's little toffee shop. Then there was Billy Walker's smithy. And he had half a door, you know. And then, so we used to lean over this door watching him doing his horseshoes and shoeing these horses, you know, round the back. And then, of course, there was some hoardings with the adverts on before you got to those houses that are there now. I think any time it must have gone right into that middle of the road, mustn't it, there? And of course there was the farm, still, well, this, used to call him Crushy Steele. He was an old man with a white beard. And and I don't know who Johnny Rushworth was that was there, and Susan Rushworth. They must have been related to him, and they had this farm. And there was no houses on Hollis Green, it was just a field, and these cows used to come up and go in this field and then bring them back to be milked. So we were terrified again then when all these cows used to go up and down Station Road, you know. Oh dear me. But it was a nice life. And then, well, my sister painted them, she's dead now, those cottages next to the Jolly. Well, then there was the cottages, and then there was a very funny little shop at the back, what she was called, Miss Stocks, Edie Stocks had it. And you had to go up some steps, and there was a little stone balcony with railings. Oh, it was very old-fashioned. And when you went in, the floorboards used to slope. I remember that. And then next door was Mr. Goody in his cellar, mended shoes. Well, then round the back was quite a nice house where my father's family lived. And I don't know whether it must have been a farm at some time, because there was a farmyard, and Pearson Butchers used to keep his horse and trap there. He had a horse and trap, Mr. Pearson, the butchers, and he used to keep that round the back of there. And I don't know what else to say. We used to go there, always round there, but they knocked it all down, it all went. And then eventually it was just a waste, wasn't it? And they had a little market there. But before that, we used to have the wakes at the back of the Jolly Sailor. In the field, well, there's all houses there now. And we loved that because we could sit in the back bedroom window and watch these caravans and everything going around on the back, you know. And that garage, what they back, my father and Mr. Clayton had, eventually Percy Woodhouse was our cousin. We were relations all over Marple Woodhouses. And he, I'll never forget, he had a car, an open top car. Nobody had cars then. And he used to let us sit in it to see, you know, we thought it was marvellous to climb in this car and sit there. It just not moving. I have to laugh when I think about it. But he had that garage for a long time, Percy. And no, we had happy times. And everybody knew one another in the village, you know, and they intermarried. So you more or less, you had all your relations, you know. And those cottages on Market Street, I had another auntie and uncle lived in them, where the Iceland is now. You know, those little cottages. Used to go there to my auntie's.
Did you ever go down to the old mill near the Roman Lakes?
Oh yes, we used to climb about in that. You know, it was on that, what's the name, that, what was it, that mill that was left? The last one, what did it do? It told you on that, I forget that. But we used to climb about in that ruin. Yeah. And those houses, I remember those two houses at the either side of the river. You see, Stone Row was, it had gates and you couldn't get through down to the lakes. There was a caretaker and a cottage at the top and you weren't allowed, we used to get there if he wasn't watching. So you had to go all round the Marple Bridge or over Strides Road and over the railway bridge to get to the lakes, because they didn't open that road for years, you know. And we used to go down there and climb about in this mill. And those two houses used to be where you came off the bridge, over the bridge, and you came around that path. There was a big one at this side and a big one at the other. And you sort of went through the path on the other side to get round to the lakes. Oh, we had many happy hours on them lakes. It was very interesting to me, that video. And then, of course, we used to either walk along over the Roman Bridge and up onto Strides Road, or back through into Marple Bridge the other way, you know. But then eventually they opened that road, what's it called? Beechwood.
Yeah, I think so.
They opened it eventually and the gates were moved, but you weren't allowed to go down there. And Stone Row, I remember I went to school with a girl that her auntie lived in one of those cottages, and I used to go with her to, I could see it on your video, and they were little back-to-back cottages, you know, little tiny, and they were built back-to-back. I always remember we used to go and see her auntie. And I think it's a shame they knocked all them down, because wouldn't they have been interesting now? Oh, they would. But I forget the name of that man. Ridgway, I think he was called. He was very keen on him, wouldn't let you go past that gate. He was in charge, I think. I know it was, I worked in the mill during the war, of course, because I left school Friday, I was 14. Monday morning I was in the mill, 12 shillings a week. My mother they were very few wages then, you know, there were 6 of us, and my dad was only a bus driver. But it was when I was it was during the war. You couldn't go through Bramins Park without a permit, because my sister worked at Comstill Mill, and she had a special permit. I wish we'd still got it, from Miss Hudson. And you had to get it signed, and then she was allowed to go through there instead of going all round Comstill. You had to get a permission. And those houses behind that flour mill at the side of the Midland used to be some cottages. A friend that came to church with me used to live up there. I used to go there to these cottages, Annie Lively she was called. Oh no, when we used to come home from school, there was peacocks at Miss Hudson's grounds, and they used to be on the wall coming up Bramins Brow. We used to love to see these peacocks, they were lovely. Then of course it was a hospital during the First World War, wasn't it?
You know the houses, going down to the lakes, you know the houses on either side of the bridge, when you go down
at the bottom,
the lakes,
bottom
yes.
of Nella.
They'd have been people living in them.
Oh yes, they were there, yeah. Yes, there was 1 or 2 that lived there, came to our school up Mill Brow. And of course the convent, Catholic convent, was up Mill Brow. I think he made it into a restaurant eventually, but it was up Mill Brow. And we used to go to Mass in the morning, not from here. Then we used to go to Sunday school in the afternoon, and these nuns used to come and teach us at Sunday school. And then we used to go back again at night for benediction, and I was on the choir. And we would always up and down Marple Bridge, you know. Thought nothing of it. Takes me all the time to walk up church. Then now I have a scooter, can't get me breath. I think where we used to walk. And we used to set off and walk from here to Disley, cross the road and go into Lime Park, and then up to the cage, and then walk back. You can't believe, can you, that you've done things like that. And I was in the Rangers, I used to love that. I was in the Brownies, then I went in the Guides, then I was in the Rangers, and we used to go up Cobden Edge with a cake of fire and do sausages in greaseproof paper and all that. It was lovely. Oh no. The shops on the front of Stockport at the bottom, there used to be a fish shop called Miss Garnett, Nellie Garnett they called her, fish and chips. Well, my dad used to have a fish for his supper. So it was tipping with rain one night, and my mother said, "You better go to Nellie Garnett's, it's too wet to go up Marple." So I went, I must have only been little. And there was other people in the shop waiting to be served, so she said, "Is this fish for your father?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, she said, "Well, I'll do it." I said, "I would have gone up Marple only it's raining." She said, "Oh, well, you can wait then." I think about it any time. Oh, dear me. And then I remember going to the union rooms, what's now the pictures, and dancing, country dancing. I remember doing rough-tupty. And then that bungalow on Station Road, the bungalow near the bottom, it was a tin hut when I was little. I went to a concert there. Remember that? And then they made it into a bungalow. And it's still there. We always lived on Station Road. We lived at the cottage. Then we moved up to number 22. And then I got married and we lived at number 16. And then my father then moved up to number 26. We always lived down there until we bought this house. We must have lived there 20 years, I think. And we bought this house. But we used to walk all the way to Marple Bridge and back. Nothing of it at all.
Can you tell me anything about the Gem Cinema?
Oh, I remember the Gem. Opposite, it's where near the Hatters, you know, it was. Called it the Bug Hut. You know, Mrs. Wadsworth used to be in the pay box. And if you made a noise, she used to come and kind of... I remember going there. And there was forms at the front. They must have been the cheapest seats. And my cousin's husband used to play the piano. They were silent films. And when it got exciting, you know, you'd have Pearl White and... oh, dear me. We didn't get to the sit at the back till we were a bit better off, I think. We used to sit on these forms at the front of the Gem. And Mrs. Wadsworth lived in one of those cottages opposite the Hatters. And she was in charge of that. And then they got, what was it after the Gem? It was some kind of a firm, wasn't it? Engineering firm at the back of where the Gem was. They used to always be going on strike. And these men would be all in groups outside. It must have been behind those offices now on that new road. Because Fernley's had a shop there on the corner. I think it must have been there. But there was a hut. It was like a hut. They sold vegetables. They were called Lane. And they sold vegetables and things. But that was all behind the Gem. But when they opened Marple Regent, that was a big affair. They had a doorman with a uniform on, keeping the queues in order. The seats at the front were 7p, behind were 9p. So we, you know, to go in the 7p, we go in the 9p. We thought we were. So upstairs was 1 and something. It's pounds now. And then Mr. Taylor, Ray Taylor, if any noise, he used to come down and start shouting, making everybody shut up. Oh dear, I forget last time I went, it was so many pounds.
Do you have any experiences about the canal?
Oh well, the canal, and when I was at the mill, it used to come behind the Regent, you know. It was called the Mill Arm. And it came, the boiler house was can't describe it, where this co-op is now and the car park. And the mill was behind. I was a weaver. Our weaving sheds was up where the old senior citizens is now. That's where I go to my meetings. And now the weaving sheds were there. And the main mill was on Stockport Road, you know, that was the cotton part. And I was a weaver, and we was over up there, up near the park. And the canal came behind the pictures. The bridge is still there, you know, in the park. It came right in where the car park is now. And the boats used to come in to take the calico to Manchester, and when it came in they used to put sort of rollers down from a window, I always remember, and then these calico was down onto these boats. And then they brought coal, And they came right up into the mill yard. And then of course all that went and they filled it in. And another thing I'll remember clearly, a tank coming up in the park. And it must have been after the First World War. I could have only been I was only born in 1914. I must have only been about 5 or 6. And this tank came up Stockport Road, making an awful noise, and everybody was out. We all ran behind it, all the way up into the park, and then it was there for ages, you know, where the senior citizens is now. I remember that. Oh dear me, then there used to be open charabancs, open, you know, and take you on trips. And we once went on one, and I remember standing up, we were so excited, and when we got there my eyes were streaming, I couldn't see. We stood all this way to Blackpool. Oh dear me.
Were the carvers around at that time with the mill, or was that?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know. This must have still lived up in the council offices, because Alan Coyne, that used to live next door, they were caretakers there, and they lived at the back. Now they're related again. His father, his brother married my auntie. I tell you, we were all related. And I remember going up there, and they had a place at the back where they lived. They were the caretakers, so somebody was still lived there, wasn't there? They must have done. Oh, but it was hard work in the mill. It was dreadful. 7:45 till 5:30, and it was really hard work. The overlookers were horrible. I used to be frightened to death. If anything was wrong with the cloth, what you were weaving, or you got in terrible trouble. And these men, overlookers, were supposed to get your looms right, you see. Well, when you went to tell them anything was wrong, they used to start cursing you. And, I was terrified. And one overlooker threw a shuttle at one woman and she had him up in court. Oh, they were nasty. Horrible days in that mill. But yeah, we used to have some fun. You know, we did have fun, and we've all kept friendly. I have 2 friends now, we were weavers near one another, and we laugh many a time. I said, do you remember so and so? Do you remember somebody else, you know? Yeah, but it was, it was only 12 shillings a week, I think, that I got. But I suppose it was a lot then, I don't know. I think the most I ever got was £2. It was piecework, so the more cloth you wove, the more money you got. I think the most I ever got was £2. Then we got married just before the war, 1939, and the war broke out.
What was it like in Marple during the war?
Well, it was awful, really, because you had to queue up for food. And I used to work in the mill. Dan didn't go in the army for 12 months after we were married. And I stopped. I lived there. I didn't give my house, so I stopped. My sister came and lived with me. And you used to have to queue up. And I always remember Pearson's Butchers. You had to give your ration books in, you see, so you could only get stuff where your ration books were. And if he had sausages, everybody used to queue up for them. Well, when I come out of the mill at dinner time, they were gone. And I asked him, would he save me 2? And he said, oh no, I can't do that. And you see, if you were working, you couldn't get to queue up, you know. And then, of course, they put the clocks on double time. Double something, like when they altered them. So that was awful, getting up. Oh, it was awful. And then when the sirens went, we all used to have to go in a cellar at the mill, you know, down underneath. We got through. But when you think about it, you wonder how you did. And of course you were rationed, you only had 2 ounces of this and an ounce of that. I don't know how we lived. We must have been all right because we're still here. Well, I am. I remember me. I must have been very young. My father in his uniform, the First World War. I remember him coming home with my uncle, and they were both in uniform. I must have been very little, because I was born in 1914, and it finished in 1918, didn't it? So I must have only been 4 or 5. I remember Dooley Lane, and all those people living in them cottages. One of them, he lived in that cottages, was a overlooker at the mill, and they used to walk up all the way to Holly's Mill, you know, every morning, back again. And they used to come from Stockport, and there was one fella come from Mattosfield, Jim Austin, who was a nasty man, and he used to come on the train to Roselle, and then work at Holly's Mill. He was an overlooker. And if he found anything wrong with it, I thought, oh dear, I was a nervous wreck.
Marple Hall, do you have
I remember Marple Hall was lovely. And where Mrs. Ogle had this little shop at the bottom, and my brother, who was only young, she used to let him take orders out for her in this little truck. And there were some people that used to look after Marple Hall called Tunstall, Mr. and Mrs. Tunstall, and they lived round the back where the stables were. And I remember going with him, pushing this truck. We'd only be young, and we used to go round the back and saw that stables on that video. I thought, I'd walk round the back of there to their very primitive it was, flag floors and that, you know. We used to have to take these groceries down there for them. Of course, there again, we used to walk down that driveway to Marple Hall. And then there was a great drop at the back. You know, it was a terrible drop at the back of it.
Did you ever go into Marple Hall?
Yes, yes. My auntie, my mother's sister, came from London. And Mrs. Tunstall was a friend with my mother. And I think they were away at the people at the hall at the time, and she told take you round. And so of course I went to getting everything. And we went, and I'll never forget, we were in a passage, and there was a photograph of a painting of a woman. She looked very nasty. And Mrs. Tunstall said, I was like, you have a look at this woman, she was a horrible person. And she had a box of matches and she lit them, and as soon as she lit them, they went on the floor and all blazed up. Frightened the life out of us. And you know, I've thrown boxes of matches on the floor since it never happened before. Oh, it was awful. That was in Marple Hall. I can remember who this woman was, but she looked a terrible woman. And she said what an awful woman she was. So she said she lit these matches because, of course, it was dim, you know. Which I'll never forget. As soon as she struck it, they straight on the floor and they blazed up. No, it was a shame they did away with Marple Hall, wasn't it? It was. Have you ever read that book, Kathleen and Frank?
No, I haven't.
Well, you used to have to order it at the library. And Frank Isherwood and Kathleen was his wife. They lived at Wibbersley Hall. Oh, it was an interesting book. And they used to come in horse and trap from Wibbersley down to Marple Hall, you know. It was a real interesting, I was interested, I like anything like that. Kathleen and Frank it was called. I don't know whether, was he the one that ended up in America?
No, that was Christopher Isherwood.
Was it? Well, anyway, he'd be his brother perhaps, wouldn't he? Oh, I think he was killed in the war, this Frank. I think he was, in the First World War. And she told how they put the baby to bed. And went downstairs, and when they went up, his baby was in another room. I remember reading that in this book. No, I don't think they should have pulled Marple Hall down like that. It was awful. But we used to walk round there many a time. It was a regular walk. And then round the dale, where the farms were. I think they've gone now, haven't they?
Yeah, I think still there.
There was 3 farms. There was Fieldings, Mrs. Godder's parents. Then there was the first, what we used to call the first farm, where some people called Hollands were. My brother was friendly with the boy from there called Jimmy Holland. I think after the war he went living in Rhodesia. And then there was the other farm what Conrad had. Well, there was a big shed and they used to have, as you went through the farmyard, didn't you, until he made you go round the back. And we used to go through this farmyard and there was a big wooden shed, iron shed, and they used to have refreshments and things in. I remember going past and everybody was there. A lot of people used to go down there then. But I don't know whether those farms are still there. Then people used to come and camp. People from Manchester used to come with tents camping down there. It's a different world, isn't it?
Can you tell me something about your school days at Albert Schools?
Albert School? Oh, well, I mustn't have been there long. I always remember I was in this first room as you go up. And there was a woman called Mrs. Swindles was the teacher. And then there was Miss Dobson, called her Millie Dobson. And I remember going in this room and we used to, I was with class, and you all went up into the big room first thing for, must have been assembly, I don't know. And I remember going off and I was sick. I was only little. And this teacher come to him and I said, I don't feel very well. I'd have been sick all the night. I think I must have been nervous. So I didn't go there very long, and then while I was going there, they built Brindley, all those houses. They started building them when I was only little, going up to Albert School. And then, of course, I wasn't there very long before I had to go to Marple Bridge because I had to go to Catholic school. I just got one daughter, 2 granddaughters, both doctors. And so I've got one for my daughter. She'll like to see her granddad on it.
Did you ever get you must have had a ride on the bus at some stage,
Oh,
did you?
yeah. They were open top at first, you know. We used to climb upstairs and open. If it was raining, you got wet through. And then we then they had covered ones. Yeah, I can't remember what Vera told me about this gas bus. I can't remember that. Of course, I was be married then. She said it was when they lived on Ellesmere Avenue. I don't remember that. But he was a well-known bus driver, my dad. Of course, he never did anything else. Oh, he did. During the war, he worked at what you call the Klondike down Cross Lane. Park and Patterson's used to call it the Klondike. And I remember we used to have to go down there to take him, I must have taken him some sandwiches. He worked there for a bit. And they used to have metal come, you know, from different places. And if they found any nice spoons, he used to give us these spoons, you know. Oh dear, and he worked there for a bit. There were some cottages along there. You haven't got any photos of them, have you?
I have actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
Nurse Podmore was in one, the local midwife, Nurse Podmore. I remember I must have gone down there for when one of ours were being born. And then my sister that you went to the other day, I'm 12 years older than her, and we lived in the Jolly, in that cottage, and my mother said, will you go up for Nursey Gibbottom and tell her I'm not very well? I was 12 then. She lived upstairs, she rode higher up. She said, will you tell her I'm not very well? I said, yeah. So I went. I said, my mother's not very well. She said, oh, it's all right. Next day I here I was born. It didn't laugh because I was 12 and I hadn't a clue. We didn't know anything. We must have been absolutely numbskulls. I can remember clearly. Of course, people didn't have cameras in them days, did they? I remember having a box Brownie camera. That was marvellous. Just took little snaps, you see. So you're lucky to have those photographs, aren't you? From way back.
I think a lot of them came from picture postcards because you got a tremendous number of people coming out every weekend from Manchester to go to the lakes and whatnot around Marple. And you know, this would be quite an interest.
They used to come up from Roselle Station in droves to go to the lakes from Manchester, you know. Oh, I used to come up Station Road and go down to the lakes. Is it still working, the lakes now? Do they have boats on it? Do they?
Well, as far as I know.
Yeah. I've been around there for years. It was nice going round there. There's a cottage round there, wasn't there, a Tull cottage, down near the bridge. I can't think of anything else to tell you. Right,
well, I think we'll stop it at that.